What is up, everyone? It is me, Dan, here, and today I'm here with my long overdue review for a film that has probably been one of my most anticipated of the year, and that is The Disaster Artist. It was, of course, directed by James Franco and stars him as Tommy Wiseau, and also stars his brother, Dave Franco, as Greg Sestero, and it tells the story of how Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero ended up trying to make it into Hollywood, their failures at doing so, and what inevitably led them to create what is regarded as one of the worst movies ever made in The Room. This is a film adaptation of Greg Sestero's 2013 book, The Disaster Artist, which documented the making of The Room, as well as Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau's friendship, and giving us more of an insight into what it was like to make that movie. I am a massive fan of The Room. It is easily one of my favorite So Bad It's Good films. I rank it alongside films such as Samurai Cop, Birdemic 2, Batman and Robin. It's in that similar vein. It's that bad a film, but it is so funny because of it. So I went into this film with a lot of expectations, and surprisingly enough, I walked away from this film really surprised. I genuinely think this might be one of the best films of the year, and I didn't think I was going to walk out of the cinema with those feelings. So I went ahead, I watched it a second time with my dad. The first time I watched it with my friends, the second time with my dad. I absolutely loved it. Easily, when it comes down to it portraying the book in a great way, because I have read the book, of course, like I already mentioned, I've seen the film. It's a fantastic adaptation. I would argue that maybe it's even better than the book. It is just fantastic the way that it's done. James Franco as Tommy Wiseau is fantastic. He gives such a great portrayal of Tommy. And I was so nervous walking into this film that his performance was literally just going to be a parody of Tommy Wiseau. That was my biggest worry going into it. And I didn't want that to be the case, because I want a film that actually tried to go more in depth into Tommy and how mysterious he is and what his thought process was on making this film. And that's exactly what we got. And I feel like the film did a really good job at being able to show that. I think it was very, very well done. James Franco, it's probably the best performance, I would argue, of his career. I would rank it alongside his performance in 127 Hours. It was that good performance. The makeup effects on him, really good. The wig, we got to talk about that sexy wig that makes him look like Tommy. It is absolutely fantastic. He's easily my favorite part of the film, but I really like his brother, Dave Franco, as Greg. I thought he was very good as well. Very, very good. And the story revolved around him was just as interesting as Tommy's, and it was very, very good. And I very much enjoyed their two characters. They are like the two big, pillars of the film, and they work really well together, and they bounce off one another really well. I completely lost, when I was watching the film, the fact that in real life they're brothers, because they genuinely came across as friends in the actual film. I was surprised by how much of the movie actually didn't document on the making of The Room. I want to say about the first 40 minutes of the film are actually dedicated to The Room. I'll put it like that. When Tommy and Greg meet each other, and they just try to go through Hollywood, they fail, and they come up with the idea of making their own film. That's essentially the first 40 minutes, and I was surprised that it lasted that long, but I actually really enjoyed that segment. And I remember when I originally watched the film in the cinema, I was thinking, I'm not really going to enjoy this, but I really did. I was genuinely surprised how much I actually cared about them forming that friendship, and it was so well done in the film. But of course, once it actually gets to that bit of them making The Room, that's really where the comedy starts to kick in. And it's really, really funny. Some of the scene recreations are fantastic. Some of them are pretty much as close as you can probably get to remaking The Room. Very, very well done in that regard. But what I also liked about this film was the fact that it wasn't just a comedy. It wasn't just a mocking of The Room. It actually had a sense of drama behind it. I mean, you get to see Tommy's reaction to how people are perceiving his film and the way that he deals with it. You see what he's like on set. At one point, he's honestly quite, appalling on set. I'm not going to spoil the moment in the film, because obviously I want you guys to go and see it who haven't seen the film. But there's a moment in the film where you kind of think he's a bit of a dick. And I actually really liked that. I liked the fact that the film, decided to go all in showing what, Tommy was like. And I really found myself getting emotionally invested in his character. You actually cared about the fact that he's, all upset at the fact that everybody just looks at his film, something that he's worked on for years, and just labels it as straight up rubbish. And you care about him. And I thought the film did a fantastic job with that. I mean, the screenplay, I've got to give credit to the writers of this film. They did a great job with the script. This was not a weak written film. All the dialogue was very, very good, very meaningful. I liked all of the characters in the film. I felt like they were there for their purpose and they were very well done. I've heard some complaints saying that the female characters weren't as good as maybe with what they could have been. I disagree. I thought they did a very good job with the female characters and how they wrote them. I thought they were wrote very, very well, and all the characters, in my opinion, were great. I mean, Seth Rogen as kind of like the second unit director, I don't know what you'd call him. I can't remember his character's name in the film, but he's in the film. He's great as well. I really liked him. But just in general, I thought the cast was very, very good for this film. I think there's only really two problems that stood out to me with The Room, but they're the kind of problems that don't really make me say, oh, you shouldn't watch this movie because of these two things. Well, maybe one of them, but I'll get into that issue right now. And that is the fact that this movie is kind of reliant on you to have seen The Room before you go and see The Disaster Artist, because there are quite a few references in this film. In fact, many references that are literally callbacks to dialogue in The Room. And people who haven't seen The Room and go to watch this movie will probably sit there in the cinema and think, what are they talking about? What are they going on about? So, in that regard, yes, you probably do need to have seen The Room before you go and see The Disaster Artist. And then the other issue I would say I had with the film was I felt like even though it was competently directed by James Franco, it didn't really have a sense of style to it. I mean, there's a hint of shaky cam in there, which is interesting, but it doesn't make me exactly sit in a cinema and go, that's a James Franco movie. Not in the way that, you know you're watching a Nolan movie because it's very practical. You know you're watching a Sam Raimi movie because it's very over the top. You know it's a Quentin Tarantino movie because it's incredibly violent and the language and the dialogue that he chooses. There's no real sense of that with James Franco, and he has directed quite a few films, but I've never really found any of them to be directed in a really noticeable way where I can sit back and say, that's a James Franco film. And I didn't really get that with this movie either. That's not to take saying that the film was directed badly. I thought it was directed very well. But I just wish I had a bit more of a sense of style to it to make it stand out a little bit more, in my opinion. But other than those two minor nitpicks, I really enjoyed The Disaster Artist. I think, like I said beforehand, it's easily one of the best films of the year, without a shadow of a doubt. I would honestly not even debate putting it in my top 5 films of the year. I think it's just a bit below Blade Runner 2049, which is my favorite film of the year so far, in my opinion. But it's pretty close, and I really didn't think I would be saying that walking out of the cinema. I'm going to give The Disaster Artist a 9.5 out of 10. That is it for my review of The Disaster Artist. You guys are probably sitting there now thinking, why does my voice sound so different? Well, that's because I've actually got myself a new microphone. I got myself the Blue Snowball microphone. I also got a pop filter with it as well. So if you guys are, you use a Snowball microphone yourself, let me know in the comment section down below how this microphone sounds, if there's any ways I can improve it whatsoever, because that would be very much appreciated for future videos. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching the video. Leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you all next time.